Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for what is turning out to be one of our most highly anticipated webinars of the year so far, oddly enough. My name is Taylor Pruitt. I will be taking you through our 4 Keys to Victory with Gameplan webinar. I also have my colleague Holly Gibson joining me today. She's going to help out a little bit and answer some questions as we go.
Hey, everyone.
And so for those of you who haven't joined us before, no worries, because this is going to be a little bit different format than any of the webinars we've ever done before. Today's we are particularly excited about. We have a lot of staff members that are excited about it as well because, as many of you probably know, football season is here. Not even right around the corner. We've got to think our first games, the first games that matter to us here in Auburn, Alabama, opening up on Saturday. We are well aware that there have been some other games already happening and coming up tomorrow, but there are some pretty big expectations coming up for this football season here. So we are tying in our most effective feature for many of you and our most widely used feature in many ways, Gameplan today, and using that to, first of all, of course, first and foremost, encourage you guys to use ConstructionOnline to its fullest capacity and to get some very valuable communication tools out of the system. That is, of course, our first priority today, but we're hoping that many of you will stick around after the fact as well to join us for our fantasy football roundtable to talk a little bit about fantasy football leagues. Those of you who are in there, give you some personal insight into our office league that we are doing our draft for and talking a little bit about sleepers, draft strategy, things of that nature. So if any of you are interested in sticking around, we will actually be opening up the mics and allowing some of our audience members to contribute. So if you are interested in sharing your 2 cents after the webinar when it comes to fantasy football, make sure you are called in to the meeting audio or have a computer mic ready to go.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I'm really excited for Taylor to take you guys through Gameplan. I mean, as he mentioned, it's really one of the most popular tools that we see being used. We've grown to a client base of almost 500,000 people using ConstructionOnline now, so that's really exciting. And one of the things that almost all of them do is use Gameplan. So if you're not using it yet and you're using ConstructionOnline, you definitely want to add this into kind of your arsenal of tools to help your day-to-day flow a lot easier. Gameplan is something that brings together a lot of the other tools in ConstructionOnline, plus it's automated. So we're looking at communication, we're looking at how we can automate some of the processes that you have in place day to day, and it goes right out to the people that need it. So you're really able to connect the people who need the information with the information they need on a regular basis every single day. Gameplan is one of my favorite features for sure. I love to show it off. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it.
Yeah, this is where any of you guys who have been through our success pipeline or have spoken with me personally about getting started with ConstructionOnline, the Gameplan feature is one of the ones that I harp on continuously. Sometimes people will tell me that I've already told them about this 3 times, and I have to remind myself that people that are already using it probably already know the benefits of it, but we will take you through today, talk about the different aspects that tie into Gameplan. So we won't be doing a whole lot of content creation today, but we'll be looking at schedules, to-dos, punch list items, calendar events, and RFIs, all the things that really tie into those Gameplan emails, and showing you just how you need to set this up or how you can set this up to where it handles all of that communication for you. No more phone calls, no more emails, no more text messages that you're having to send out every day, every morning. We constantly receive reports from clients that this one feature alone saves them, 4 to 5, a dozen, sometimes 15 hours a week from the phone calls and emails. And it's not just the time, but it's the clarity of communication as well. Making sure that in addition to the time it takes to actually make these calls and emails and things like that, that somebody isn't reliant on remembering what you told them over the phone 5 days ago to know where they're supposed to be, but that they have it right in front of them at any given time. And so we'll be taking you through that, showing you what these Gameplan reports look like and how our clients most effectively use them, and tying into the mobile app as well. The Gameplan app is one of our most popular apps, just like the feature is one of the most popular features on ConstructionOnline, and can be used by your team, by your subs, by anybody in the field, in the office. It's universal to anybody using ConstructionOnline, whether you're residential, commercial, whether you are managing nursing homes. Believe it or not, we have clients doing that. So theme parks in Southeast Asia. If you guys are in here, shout out to you. We've got too many people in here for me to see everyone in here right now. So Gameplan is something that you're going to find a lot of value in and can be done immediately. Holly will be here answering questions, I guess, throughout the webinar.
I will.
So feel free to chat those in as I go through. I'll be keeping an eye on them as well, of course, and trying to address those as they come in. Some of them we will kind of save for a Q&A session in, I guess, what we'll call intermission or halftime today, between the actual Gameplan webinar and the fantasy football roundtable that we have coming after. So send those in. We will make sure that we get those addressed, and I guess Holly will be keeping an eye on those questions for you.
I will, yeah. So keep them coming. I'll be standing by on chat to answer your questions. So if you think of anything as Taylor is going through Gameplan that you have questions about, or just that you'd like to see a little bit more of, chat that over to me. I will do my very best to respond to every one of you individually, and we'll also be keeping a lookout for things that we can highlight at the end of the session today.
Yeah, so perfect. Well, I guess at this point we'll go ahead and start talking about some of the features, as I mentioned, that the Gameplan entails. I do have a project set up for us, so we won't be creating a whole lot of content today. If you do have questions about setting projects up or creating schedules or punch lists or anything like that, check out some of our other videos, or of course just give us a call and let us know. We'll be happy to talk you through it. But for today, I'm going to zip over to my Projects and Files tab here. I have this sample project set up that, as you can see, I do have some to-dos, an RFI. I don't have a punch list on this one, but I've got some other projects to do, and I have a schedule. So all of these are features that go into the Gameplan, and one of the mechanics that really drives Gameplan on ConstructionOnline is being able to assign or relate resources to these items in ConstructionOnline. So that's really a core concept or a key concept that we're working on here, is that any of these task-related or time-bound items can, of course, be assigned to a particular team member, subcontractor, superintendent, office manager, whatever it may be, so that you know who's responsible for it. And Gameplan will actually filter out only those items that each person's responsible for, so everybody gets their own custom game plan based on what they need to pay attention to. It gives you kind of tunnel vision, lets you focus in only on the things that matter and kind of get rid of the white noise in the background. And so for this sample project, I'm going to go ahead and hop over to the schedule. And one thing I did want to mention, we have, in the last couple of weeks, made some incredible improvements to the speed of scheduling on ConstructionOnline. You know, in the past, we have really celebrated the speed in which you can interact with the schedule on ConstructionOnline. We have made some pretty incredible changes lately. I don't know if you guys even saw that loading there, but to how fast the schedules themselves load and your interactivity with it. So couldn't help but notice that as I was going through here, wanted to mention it. But on the schedules, I've got my Gantt chart set up. I've got all my predecessors linked, so I've got my site work, my footers labor, foundation labor, etc. All of these tasks are actually happening in March 2017. So this was built off a template. If I wanted to move this, I'm going to go ahead and shift this to today's date so that we can get some of this content on our game plan. So let's say we're going to move this to August 1st. And now we're in a little bit of a more current or more relevant frame of reference here. So we've got a few things that are actually coming up here in the next week. Now, assigning resources to this, you'll actually want to go over to the list view is the easiest way or my preferred way. And over here on the right-hand side, you can actually see we have a resource column to where I'm going to pop into full screen so we've got a little bit nicer view. You can actually go in and for each of these items, footers labor, inspections, wall framing, and assign resources to them. So if I go into framing labor, maybe this is going to be assigned to myself. So I've got me, Brad, Chip, another me, and then one of my employees. So I'll assign this one to me. I'll go down to framing for trusses and assign this to my employee. And so now we've got a couple things that are tied to certain people that they're responsible for. Again, this is the driving factor through all of Gameplan. So we're not going to go too far in depth with the scheduling feature itself, just making sure you guys know that you can assign these resources in the list view, and the same principle is going to carry over to everything else that we're looking at today. So if I bounce over to to-dos, I do already have a couple to-dos created here. You are more than welcome to create to-dos using our quick add. You can do it using the new to-do button in the top right. You can do it using the mobile app that we have with ConstructionOnline. Everybody kind of has their own way of accessing these features based on where they're working from. But as you're going through here, you'll see that I have a couple to-dos that are upcoming. So I have to call my city planner for this sample project by tomorrow. I've got to create a spec sheet for the Blount residents by the 4th. I have to schedule a client walkthrough for the Gilly residents by tomorrow, actually. So this was 2 days from now, 31 days in August. And all of these are upcoming in the next week or so. So if I generate a game plan that shows a week look ahead as opposed to a day look ahead, then I will have all of these items showing if I'm responsible for them. So for me, you can see I've got calling the electrical subcontractor, but this has already been completed, so it's not going to show up on my game plan. I've got purchase permits and create a spec sheet. So the game plan, one thing to notice here is that it is cross-project. So although these things are assigned, one to sample project, one to Blount residents, if I had another one here on the chaining road that wasn't complete, those are 3 separate projects, but game plan is all-encompassing. It really covers all of your bases and is system-wide, so that you're not missing any detail. You do have the ability, as we'll look at later, to organize your game plan by project or just by date. But in this case, again, the important part is that you can assign or relate context to this. Either one, if you're assigned or related, will show up on your game plan, so you don't really have to worry about those. But just in general practice, some context here. Assigned contacts are typically the ones responsible for actually executing this task. So the person that actually needs to schedule the client walkthrough or needs to purchase the permits, whereas the related contacts are people maybe that just need to be in the know or notified whenever this task is completed. So anybody that is involved in that might be related, but the person that's in the end responsible for executing that task is going to be the one you want to be the assigned resource. So again, won't really go too far into this, but I will go ahead and add a to-do that says discuss fantasy football. I'll put, well, if I can get this right, I'll put this on our Blount Residence project for today, why not? And we'll say that this is due today. So I'll leave this unchecked. We haven't done this yet, but I will get around to it. And this will now show up on my game plan if I assign it to myself. So schedules, you've seen where to assign resources. To-dos, you can assign them right here in the grid. Calendar events we'll say for last because it's kind of your own game plan here for project management within the system. But if we go over to punch list as well, everything again has the same concept. This is going to be kind of repetitive as we hit the 3rd and 4th features here, but there are slightly different ways or locations to assign these tasks and items and schedule events to different users. So I want to make sure you guys see exactly where the game plan is pulling this information from. And so in the Blount Residence, I do have a punch list that I've already created. Again, for more information on actually creating this content, it is very easily done. Just click new punch list or add item. You'll get the gist of most of it. But we are going to use the items we've already created today. And so I've got repaint baseboards, test light bulbs, clean windows, and a couple sub-issues for the different windows and different baseboards. But if I click into these, I again have assigned resources and related resources. So my employee is going to be doing the baseboards. I'm going to be testing the light bulbs. My employee is going to be cleaning the windows. And so as we generate the game plans for each user, we'll kind of see the comparison and contrast between what they're assigned to and what I'm assigned to. The calendars I'll go ahead and flip over to as well. So the calendars, as you can see across the top, do have calendar events, scheduled tasks, to-dos, and punch list items all included on them, which are all parts of your game plan. And so as I'm looking at this, if we scroll down a little bit to today's date and the upcoming days, you'll see I've got a safety meeting coming up. Those to-dos that we looked at a moment ago, you can see on here as well. And some of these scheduled tasks for the sample project and for the Chaining Road project are on here also. So one would expect, if you're looking a week ahead, to get some of these items on the game plan. So we've got that safety meeting, and then if I pop over to beginning of September, since we are right here at this crossover between August and September, I will have Labor Day obviously coming up on Monday. And then the staff meeting, if I look at it, me and my employee are going to be at the staff meeting. a selections review with Corey, and that's assigned to me. Again, all of these items are something that you will be going through on a day-to-day basis, and really what this is all building up to is that these items are created by you. You still are coming in, setting up the items in the system. You have to tell the system that there's a selections review. You have to tell the system who's responsible for it. So there is a certain level of manual entry that will always be required until the technology comes out where, computers can read people's minds and translate what they're thinking into something on the screen. We are not planning on that being anytime soon. So until then, you will have to actually come in here and create these items and assign people to them. But once you've done that, really, I was going to say that we're, talking a little bit about work first and then play later with the fantasy football, but it's kind of a challenge to even consider using Gameplan work because it's exactly the opposite. What this is doing for you is preventing you from working. It's going to take all of the things that you absolutely have to do, the bare minimum that you have to do on manual entry, actually creating these tasks, getting it into the system, and multiplying the results that you get out of that and the return that you get out of that tenfold or 20-fold, depending on how many game plans you're sending out or how many people are assigned to these items. And so all of these things are really, kind of coming together and accumulating in one single location, and that's going to be our game plan. So to talk a little bit about this, if we switch over to the Game Plan tab, you'll see that I actually have 2 of them set up already. So I'm a little ahead of the curve here. I've got one for myself, one for my employee. A couple things to note about game plans before we dive into them is that, again, I mentioned this once or twice, but every contact can have their own game plan with their own settings based on what they need. I have mine set up to get a weekly game plan every Sunday at 8 p.m. and it tells me everything I have going on for the next week. So every Sunday at 8, I get an email in my inbox. It says, "Hey Taylor, here's what you've got going from now until next Sunday." And it includes my to-dos, my calendar events, my scheduled tasks, etc. My employee has a pretty similar setup. They get theirs on Sunday as well, but they get theirs at 4 p.m. Maybe they like to know a little bit earlier than I do. But you've got the flexibility to set this up for TeamLink users, for ClientLink users, for anybody else that you're working with on ConstructionOnline. I'm going to go ahead and set one up for Brad here because he's assigned to a few things that we've been looking at. And maybe Brad's going to get a daily game plan. So maybe his schedule changes a little bit too frequently. So I don't want to give him a week look ahead because it's going to confuse him. So I'm just going to give him one day at a time. Every day, let's say at 6:30 a.m., he's going to get a game plan for today. Alternatively, I've seen people set this up to where every evening at, let's say, 8 p.m. or 7 p.m., you get a game plan for the next day. So that would look something like, saying, hey, at 6:30 p.m., get a game plan for tomorrow. And then you can choose how you want this structured. So this part is really just personal preference. You can either have it broken down by date or by project. If you do it by date, it's going to show your to-dos as one section, and then all of your project's to-dos are going to be under that. And then it's going to show your calendar events, and every project's calendar events are going to be under that, so on and so forth. If you do it by project, it's going to flip that order. It's going to show the project A, let's say in this case, and then it's going to show you your to-dos, calendar events, scheduled tasks, punch list items for that project. And then it's going to move on to project B and show you the to-dos, calendar events, punch list items for that project. So this is really personal preference. The main driving factor behind this is usually how many projects you have and how many items you have on each project. My recommendation is really just generate one of each, see which one you like better, and stick with it. But so in this case, I'll set one up. Again, calendar events, scheduled tasks, to-dos, punch list items, RFIs. I choose which of these items need to be included. And for the scheduled tasks, this is kind of a big one so that you don't get overwhelmed or overloaded with, with your game plan tasks. You do have the option to choose only tasks explicitly associated with this contact. And that means I'm only going to get game plan tasks, or I'm only going to get tasks on my game plan for the things that I am in the resource field for. So that first schedule that we looked at, the resource field, it's only going to show up on my game plan if my name's in that box. Otherwise, all tasks in my contact schedule, that's going to send me every task in my schedule any schedule that I have access to on Construction Online that happens within this window. So in this case, any task that happens tomorrow, whether or not it's my responsibility, if it's on a job that I'm working on, I will see. This type of setting is very useful for project managers, for superintendents, people that are usually overseeing some team members but not actually doing the labor themselves or doing the work themselves. On that note, you can also get email copies for somebody else sent to you. So if you are a project manager, you are a superintendent, or you have kind of a team that you are working with and you need to know what they're all doing, you can set their game plans up and have a copy of each of them sent to you every day when they go out, so that when you start your day, you've already got Construction Online doing the work for you. It says, hey, here's Taylor's plan today and what Taylor's responsible for. Here's what Holly's responsible for today. Here's what Corey is responsible for today. And you can look at them and very quickly and immediately know what your team is doing and what needs to be accomplished today. So it's an organizational tool as much as it is an actionable tool. So in this case, I'll go ahead and set this up for Brad. And at this point, though, you can see it's added to the table. He gets a daily one, 6:30. If you ever want to change it, you can go in and manage it. But this is the automated one. So let's say that my employee has just had a couple changes made, and I want to go ahead and shoot him out an updated game plan. Well, I don't want to wait till Sunday at 4 for him to get that. I can go ahead and do a quick game plan, go ahead and send him out an immediate one right now, and I can also send his game plan to someone else or myself if I want to. So you're not restricted to only doing it on the scheduled times. You can send it out at any point in time on demand as well. But really, at this point, kind of all this build-up is leading to what we've been waiting for, is actually seeing this game plan report in practice and what it looks like. So this is really the part that makes a huge difference. And the first time that your team gets their game plans and says, hey, well, they won't say much to you. You'll notice there will be crickets, because where you usually get the phone calls and the text messages trying to figure out where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing, you won't hear a word from them. They'll just be at the site doing what they're supposed to be doing. You won't have to tell them. The game plan does that for you. So as you go in here, if you generate, I've actually got a game plan generated already up here. You can see for the next 7 days, this is actually a game plan for myself. So I generated one under the parameters for the next week, and it is by date, so we'll do one by project in a second so you can see the difference. But this is the format of the email you get. It's got calendar events. I've got a safety meeting Friday. I've got a staff meeting next Monday. And I've got, I think that's Monday, Tuesday. And I've got a selections review with my client, Corey, for the Gilly residents on the 5th as well. So all of this is included, every detail that you need. Schedule tasks, to-dos, punch list items, all of this is right here on the report. As far as a contrast here, if I wanted to regenerate this by project instead, go ahead and do this with the same settings that I've done before. We'll be able to compare these two and see the difference, and this will kind of give you an idea of the format that you're looking for and how you guys might want to structure this. The one by project will actually show for the next 7 days, and instead of like we have here, it'll show just one section for calendar events, one for schedules, one for to-dos, one for punch list items. Here, you've got a section for your projects, and these are things that are not assigned to a project, so on my general calendar. And under each project, you have the events. So the schedule tasks and the RFIs here. For the Blunt residents, the to-dos and punch list items. For the Gilly residents, the calendar events and to-dos. One really nice thing about this too, if you're emailing it, it doesn't matter because it's all a single long page. If you're ever wanting to print this out for some reason, or stick it on a board or save it as a PDF, we do have our in-browser editing here. So if you're like me and this page break drives you nuts, you can go ahead and just step in here and bump this down. Take advantage of all of the nice editing features that we have in Construction Online with our text editor. You can do some really brilliant things here with fonts and styles and colors and any customization that you need to. That's a topic that I can go on for another 20 minutes for, so I'll try to refrain from doing that. But you can kind of see here the difference between the game plan that you generate by date and the game plan you generate by project. And many of you are probably already kind of picking one or thinking which way might work best for you. So the game plan by date is very nice if you're doing a week long or a 2 week long. The by project is a little bit nicer if it's daily or monthly in a lot of ways, but again, I'll leave that decision up to you. And so at this point, as you're assigning these game plans, as you're picking these, at this point you have done everything you need to do to make sure people show up on time, other than drag them there, by their collar, by the scruff of their neck. You are kind of washing your hands of this at this point, and you have told them where they need to be. They know where they need to be. Whether or not they show up is something that unfortunately none of us can really do a whole lot about without some incentives or some penalties incurred if they don't. So, I'm sure many of you have some pretty creative stories to share there. Would love to hear it at another time. But what's missing from this at this point is the fact that they received this in their inbox. They know exactly what they're supposed to do, but we haven't yet given them a way to tell you that it's done. And that is where our Gameplan app comes in. And so if you haven't downloaded the Gameplan app, but you've been using Gameplan, go ahead and take a look at that. It is so convenient. I'll go ahead and cast it up here for you guys in a second so you can see exactly what it looks like. But if you just search on-site Gameplan on the iOS App Store or on the Google Play Store, you'll be able to find it. And right now I'm having a little delay with my phone pulling up my computer here, so bear with me for just a second. I'm going to close and reopen this. But yeah, as you are searching for that Gameplan app while I'm pulling it up, once you set the game plans up on Construction Online, that app will automatically have that content delivered to you as soon as you install it. So you'll log in using your credentials. It will actually go ahead and pull those game plans in for you as soon as you open that up. And what that's going to look like, well, the one time I need my phone to connect, it's having a little trouble. Bear with me for just a second here, guys, because this is the exciting part. A little suspense never hurt anybody. While I'm waiting for this wonderful lonely screen to pull up, by the way, I will go ahead and take this opportunity to say this little difficulty is third-party software. It's why we bring everything into Construction Online that we can. We like to do things better than other people can, so maybe this is going to be next on our list. Give you guys a way to cast your phones up to Construction Online. While I'm doing this, I want to take a quick look through the questions that have come in. Looks like Holly, as usual, has been doing a phenomenal job of answering those for you guys. But I'm going to skim through and make sure that I haven't overlooked anything as we're stepping through. One thing that I do see that was asked that I don't think has been addressed is the ability to create multiple game plans for the same individual. At this point, it is a single game plan per person setup. And that is actually per company. So as your company users go, everything's kind of tied together and integrated on Construction Online, and that does include game plans. So as you're going through, if you set up a game plan for Brad, as you can see here on my screen, and then my employee comes in and wants to set up one for Brad, that one already exists. So when you're looking for that, there's one game plan really that can be set up per company, and that really does avoid any confusion. We have had a couple requests to add the capability to do multiple game plans. We are evaluating that and seeing really if there's any opportunity to expand on this or what the uses of multiple game plans would really bring to the table. But of course, like anything else that we do, we don't want to just throw it in there and do it as a kind of base level. There's some other decisions going into that as well, and may or may not play out to where Gameplan gets a little bit of an overhaul if that happens. But for right now, it's happening exactly the way that we want it to. Everything is tied in pretty incredibly, and here we go. And you guys, I shouldn't be telling you this because I feel dumb about it, but my phone did not have Wi-Fi on, so I'm going to apologize to Lonely Screen for saying that their third-party software was causing some trouble. You guys can have a nice laugh at me next time we talk, but I just didn't have Wi-Fi on. So now that I've got this pulled up, the Gameplan app, if hopefully those of you who haven't downloaded the app before have had a chance to do that while I've been fumbling around here, the Gameplan app is going to be pretty phenomenal. So I'm logged into my UDA Webinars account, the same thing that we were just logged into on the screen. When you log in, you'll see any game plans that have been sent to you, including yours, but also including other people's game plans that you have chosen to have sent to you as well. So again, if you're a project manager or super, you'll see other people's game plans on here if they're being sent to you. And when you drill in, you'll have these projects broken down. So for each of these, I'll get a little summary. I've got 18 items on all projects, so that's the sum total. I've got 8 items on Channing, 4 on Blunt, 2 general, 2 in Gilly, 2 in Sample. So I'm going to go ahead and drill into all projects. This is where your guys can download this app, open it up at the beginning of their day, every day, and just drill in and see exactly what they have on their plate. So it does mirror, as you can see, the settings for the time frame or the time interval that's set on ConstructionOnline. So this is a week-long look ahead. And you can see that I've got 3 to-dos, 3 punch list items, 3 calendar events, 6 scheduled tasks, and 3 RFIs that need my attention in the next week, or by the 3rd, actually, in this case. So as I go through here, this is kind of that missing link, or the final step, I guess I should say, in the game plan communication. You've sent everything out to your team. They know what they need to do. Now they just need to do it and tell you that it's done. So if they go, let's say, into scheduling tasks, they can click on it. Looks like there's some overdue framing labor actually here that was supposed to be done on the 21st. So I can go ahead and mark that as complete just by checking this box off. If I want to see on this stucco, maybe some additional details on it, since I'm in all projects, I can click on this, see that it was created by UDA Webinars, which is me. See the start and end date, see any details that have been added. There's nothing in this case that that are there. So you can actually go through and see all the details on this as well, and then check them off as they're complete. And as we're seeing here, framing labor and stucco I've just checked off. If I go back and look at one of my to-do items, let's say schedule client walkthrough, I've just completed that one. We can go back in real time to ConstructionOnline, go to my to-dos, and schedule client walkthrough has actually already been checked off. So really, in the time it took me just to switch pages on ConstructionOnline, that's already been communicated, marked on ConstructionOnline itself as complete, and also, depending on your notification settings, would have sent you back in the office an email or a text message letting you know that that's been completed in case you're not looking straight at the screen at the time it's done. And so all of this is really going to be the nice ribbon on top of the game plan, tying it together and letting you guys communicate everything to the field, let your field team get the work done, check it off, and notify you immediately that it's been completed. This keeps project running on time, it keeps them running smoothly, minimal communication, minimal verbal communication or written communication even. It's just letting you know that things get done, and it is taking out the middleman, if you will, and freeing people up. This is the most important thing. We've had so many reports that a lot of the people out there doing this type of work, making these phone calls, the office managers sending these emails, are doing it after hours or having to come in early to do it. It'll free up that time, let you guys work some decent hours, get back to your family, get back to doing the things that you would prefer to be doing other than calling your subs or calling your team members and telling them where they're supposed to be and fighting with them about it. And get you back to that. If you're one of the lucky few who is actually doing this on normal hours or coming in with a regular schedule, this will free that time up for you to do other things that you might find a little more fulfilling or contribute to the company. If you're a company owner, a company president, this allows you to take your employees that are spending time doing this and reallocate their time to doing other tasks because this is automated now. And so that way you might be thinking about hiring somebody else to take on some roles that you might just be pushing it with, maybe not quite have enough manpower. Well, this is going to free up some manpower to reallocate to that, so you can save an entire salary by reallocating your resources that this is, taking 4, 5, 10 hours a week off of. So that is really the epitome of what GamePlan does, is eliminates that unnecessary communication and brings that in to where you can get everything done as quickly and effectively as possible with minimal verbal communication and phone calls and things of that nature.